And we are live. Hello, LinkedIn. Megan Wessels with Powerful Partners here. So excited to bring to you my power partner for the month of May, Lisa Simone Richards. She is a PR and visibility strategist. She's going to tell you a little bit more about what that means. But I'm telling you, she's got 20 years of industry experience in PR. And we were just talking about how much the industry has changed. You know, years ago, it was actually just a few years ago, right? It was all about getting on TV and radio, but now there's other channels out there for people to get, especially business owners, to get great visibility. Podcasts being one of them, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I can tell you that Lisa is the jam because she has worked with several, including myself, several of our forum members. She's actually one of the forum experts that we bring in when we know that our members need to build their skills in PR. Lisa is the person that we call, and that's why I wanted to share her with all of you today. So Lisa, tell them a little bit more about your background and more details about what we're going to talk about today.
Megan, thank you so much for having me here today. And what you were saying couldn't be more on point about how much PR and visibility has changed in the last few years. Like when I think back to when I first got started and had an agency job in 2007, if we got our clients, so we were working with companies like Staples, Crayola, Virgin Mobile, if we got them featured on a website, they'd be like, oh, that's nice, thanks. But we really wanted to be in the print magazine. And now it's complete opposite. If any of my clients are in a print magazine, they're like, that's cute, but like we want to be on the website for the SEO purposes and so people can find us. So it has changed a ton in the last few years. Thank you again for having me in the group. For everyone who I'm getting to meet today, my name's Lisa Simone Richards, and I am a big believer in learning how to borrow other people's audiences. So I feel like what I'm seeing a lot of business owners and coaches doing is, you know, we all hear about social media all the time, and I love it. It is powerful for us to be able to DM our clients, to be able to nurture our audience, create our own content. But I'm hearing so many people feeling like they're stuck just growing one follower at a time, posting all the time. So what I like to open people's eyes to is somebody else already has a platform with thousands, if not tens of thousands of your ideal clients there, whether it's a podcast like we're going to speak about today, whether it's a website, a magazine, a TV show, a Facebook group, an Instagram influencer. So why not find a way to partner with these people? This is all about power partners. And actually leverage their platform, show up in a way that creates value so that they want to share you with their thousands of followers, and then you can bring them into your world. So I'm just a huge believer in that being a really fast way to skyrocket and speed up the process.
Yeah. And I can tell you, one of the members that you worked with, she was on the morning news, like within a week, I think, of working with you. And then the other one, Jennifer, she doubled her month-over-month revenue by doing podcast pitches and getting on podcasts. I think she was doing 6 a week is what she told me, but she took your program and literally doubled her month-over-month revenue. Her business had a record year last year because she started working with you. So I'm really excited for you to share because I know I've worked with you too. And one of the things that we went through is there's a lot of different details that you have to, the homework basically that you have to do before you actually pitch a podcast and then get accepted to it, right? That's half the battle is actually getting accepted. But what are some of the things that that our audience can do, especially business owner, to determine which podcasts they need to pitch, and then also who that contact information is once they find the right ones?
100%. So it doesn't make sense to get seen, or in this situation heard, by somewhere your audience isn't listening or paying attention. So, you know, we'll go through some exercises today in terms of how to start finding the right places. But one of the things I always start with, if I have a whiteboard in front of me and no clue where to begin, I'm going to start with reaching out to some of my favorite clients that I've worked with in the past. And I would say to them, where are you getting your information? Like, number one, are you listening to podcasts to make sure it's the right strategy? Because there's so many we can pick. But then I'd be like, what shows are you listening to get information on business, health, life, like whatever the category that I would work in specifically. So I might say visibility or entrepreneurship or business, and find out what shows they're listening to, because that's a great place to get started if you want more clients like them. And then one of the things that I'm really excited to share today is what I like to call my iTunes rabbit hole that I'll take you through, because once you find the first podcast, then iTunes actually really has you set up to win to find other similar shows just like that one, as well as start finding the host for these podcasts and creeping to find their email addresses. So we'll go through that as well. So number one, we can start off by asking our ideal clients, people that we've worked with, people that we would love to have more of, where are you paying attention? Also, another good place to start is Google. You can type in podcast, like, give me an industry, and we'll run with that for an example.
Let's say the beauty industry.
Okay, beauty industry. So like narrow
makeup.
It down to me. Makeup. Okay, so if I'm selling makeup, I might be looking for podcasts hosted by beauty influencers. I would even, one thing I love, and I don't want to make this too all over the place, I'd love to give you guys 3 ideas. The other one I might consider is Success Leaves Clues. Who is somebody in the beauty or the makeup industry who has a career very similar to what you would love for yours to look like? What podcast has that individual been featured on? Chances are they're like 10 light years ahead of you. You're not going to be them tomorrow. So it is okay in this instance to look and draw inspiration from them and follow in their footsteps, because you're going to know that that's a podcast that already covers that topic. That person was there. And now you can bring in something from the beauty industry with a different spin.
Love it. Okay. So what's the first step in doing that? I know you were going to share your screen with us and walk the audience through how to creep on iTunes and find the right podcasts.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start off with a beauty industry podcast, for example. Okay. So just so everyone knows, Megan is surprising me with this topic. I have done no previous research on it. So you guys are going to see what really happens in Lisa's head when she's doing this. So I'm going to start off by sharing my screen. We're going to pop into a few different windows today. So let's start off by going on to, bear with me for a second. We are going to go into Google. And I think you should be seeing my screen now. Are you, Megan?
Nope.
Nope. I think right. You have to select it and put it up.
There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Okay. So now we're on Google. I'm going to start by looking up a beauty industry podcast. Fantastic. We're already getting started with Google making this super easy. I'm going to actually expand my screen so you can see more. Elle is telling us the 9 best podcasts to listen to. At the top of this screen, they have a bunch of suggestions. So for me, I just want to start off with one title to begin my rabbit hole, as we called it. Let's start off with, how about Breaking Beauty, since it's this podcast on the first one that's coming up in this picture for me. Perfect. So Megan, bear with me for 1 second. We're going to change screens. So we're starting off with the Breaking Beauty podcast. So what I'm going to do is open up another share screen. And let's hope I can find the right window. Breaking Beauty podcast. Okay, so now we're going to hop into iTunes because we found a title. Okay, Megan, if you don't mind sharing that. All right, so I'm going to type in Breaking Beauty. So we can see in this center column here where it says podcasts, we can see that the 4th entry down is the Breaking Beauty podcast. So I'm going to click on that one. And now I want to take you guys through. This is literally what I think every time I'm considering, is this show the right fit for my client? So as you look at this screen, the first thing that I'm going to do, it's not look at the description of the show to see if it's the right fit, which I think is what probably people would think I do first. It's not. The first thing that I look at on this screen is the released column, because if I see they haven't done an episode since November 2020, I'm not going to waste my time going any further. So I see they've done shows in May, April, they're being consistent. A few things that I'm gleaning just from looking at the release column, it looks like on average, they're doing about 4 shows a month. So 1 every week, maybe 2. I'm seeing maybe some instances where there are 5. So that tells me they're looking for content. If they're only posting 1 episode a month, it's going to be a lot harder to get on there. But if they're doing weekly shows, there's consistent content. So that's the first thing I'm looking at. Secondly, I'm scrolling over to the left column that says name. Sometimes you might find this hidden in the description column, but typically it's a name. What I want to see here is this a solo cast where the host only talks by themselves, or is it a show where they do interviews? So as I look at the names of the titles of episodes, I'm looking for the word with so-and-so to see if they interviewed anybody. So for example, episode 8. Do's and Don'ts Skincare Guide with LA Beautyologist. I see number 10 is an interview with Charlotte Cho. Number 13, interview with celebrity manicurist. So
Number
fantastic.
2, Victoria Beckham. Look at that popularity on that one.
Isn't that amazing that I just completely scrolled past that one? I was just like, went all the way down. So the purpose here is we want to see that it's a show that does interviews. So fantastic. We know they're current. We know that they do interviews. Now the part I'm interested in is this show the right fit? Now I'm going to invest my time doing a little bit more. So I want to look at from the provider section and read the description. So again, we're playing with a fictional client here. Don't know their details. Actually, these are some Toronto beauty people, so I do recognize their names. But I would actually go through the description and say, does this make sense? So is this a podcast for people in the beauty industry, or is it a podcast for beauty consumers? Depending on my client, that's going to matter. So let's say hypothetically, yes, this is a great alignment for my client. I'm going to show you one thing before we hop out of here to keep it easy. I promised earlier I would mention that we just needed to start with one podcast and go down what I call my iTunes rabbit hole. And fingers crossed it works on this example, because like I said, this is real. We haven't tested this before. Mm-hmm. But typically when you come across a popular podcast, iTunes at the very bottom of this screen is going to say listeners also subscribe to, and it'll give me a series of similar shows. So let's see if that works. Going to hit N to go to the bottom. Boom. Listeners also subscribe to Beauty Brains, Full Coverage, Glossy. We have a whole list of different shows that are all about beauty podcasts here. So all I needed to find was one, and I can just open up all of these different episodes, or all these different shows, and I can see 10 other podcasts that could be a fit for my client. So Megan, before I go any further, are there any questions up until now? Because I know I can go really, really fast.
Yeah. So when you're looking at to determine if this is the right one, okay, this person particularly has a lot of very influential, popular people. So this might not be the right fit if you are more of a not so well-known business owner that is in the beauty industry.
Correct. So I'm a big believer in playing a big game. And you also get to lay a foundation. If somebody has 100,000 followers, they're probably not going to have someone with 1,000 followers on their show. It could happen. Don't want to say it couldn't, but you also want to set yourself up to win. So that's why I think it's really helpful to go through the other shows at the bottom to see other similar shows that you can lay a foundation with, but they may not be as high profile. Something else, this isn't an exact science, but something that can help you kind of understand the popularity of a show, because we don't have access to knowing what the download numbers are, is I'll actually move over to one of the columns here on the right that says popularity, and I'll just take a look and see if the shading in the bars. So, for episode number 2 with Victoria Beckham, look at how heavily shaded that is. I got a lot of downloads and listenership, obviously. So when you see shows that are heavier on the gray side, that tells me that is a bigger, higher profile show. So, you need to be at a certain level of business to get on there, quite frankly. So sometimes your best bet is going to be going towards some of the shows that are tiering a little less heavily gray, so that you actually have a chance of getting on.
Okay. And do you how much? So I know one of the things because I'm doing the research on podcasts right now with one of my virtual assistants to determine which ones to pitch. Or not just which ones to pitch, but also what to say in the pitch, because I know we're going to get to the pitch here in a minute, and that's part of it. So would you recommend just skimming through a podcast interview or listening to a few of them before actually pitching?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is one of those examples of how things change in your business over the course of a few years and how we're allowed to change our minds. So I remember when I first started my Pitch to Podcast challenge, I may have released that back in 2016. I had said to people, find 10 different podcasts that you want to listen to or you would love to be featured on, and then listen to 2 episodes from each show. Now, the honest truth is, most people probably don't have a lot of time to listen to 20 different podcast episodes. So what I've switched up in my actual pitch now is I'll actually look at the titles of the episodes and say to myself, hey, which ones of these resonate with me? And when I reach out and pitch the show, I'll say something like, hey, I just came across your show. 2 episode titles that totally landed with me are A and B. So I'm not lying and saying, hey, I love these episodes, because I haven't listened to them, but I am sharing that, I've done a little bit of research. I see some ones that resonate with me. And typically what I'll do when I get a yes to be on the show, that's when I'll take the time to listen to the 2 episodes to have a sense of familiarity, because, you don't want to come across looking silly. A lot of podcasts, for example, Lewis House School of Greatness, he always asks at the end of every show, the 2 truths question, if anyone's familiar with that. It would look silly to not know that happens, because it's on every single episode. So I'd recommend, once you get a yes, then listen to 2 or 3 episodes just to have a sense of what the show is like and what you can expect.
Great. And I do have another question, because I've actually been thinking about this. Is it beneficial to, would it help your possibility of getting selected if you were subscribed and then also leave a comment on iTunes, right? A testimonial for that podcast. Go to their social media pages, follow them, like their posts, and maybe leave a few comments. Do you find that sort of legwork too seems to help, or is it not necessary to take the time to do that?
Yeah. Okay. So I would change up the order in which you did it, because I've definitely never come across a podcast host who's like, did you subscribe to my show and like it and rate it on iTunes? Like, never once in 6 years has that come up. Is it a good thing to do just because, you're asking this person to get access to their audience, give them some love. Let's make it a two-way reciprocity. That's a great thing to do. What I would do first, however, is I would find the show or the host on Instagram. I'd give them a comment. I'd like their content there. That's where they're more likely to get to know your name and recognize who you are, versus digging through their comments and likes on iTunes or another podcast provider to see if you're engaged with the show.
Okay, great advice. All right, so what's the next step?
Okay, so now that we found one show that's a good fit, we went through the rabbit hole and we know that there are 10 plus shows at the bottom that could also be a good fit for us. The next thing we actually need to know is, okay, I want to be on the Breaking Beauty podcast. How do I get in touch with Jill Dunn and Carleen Higgins, who we can see are the hosts based on the title and the provider? So another thing that iTunes does that I love is they have on the left here, if you just scroll down below the icon, they have links, and there's one to their website. So I'm going to give you guys a tip that is typically reserved for my clients, but you guys are friends of Megan's and I want to be able to share with you. So hold on, bear with me. We need to do a new share screen for this, because now we're going onto the website. Let me stop sharing. Let me open a new screen. Thank you, everyone, for your patience as we toggle between system and system. Okay, now which one of all of these windows?
Oh, yes. It's like the window roulette. All right, there we
Breaking
go.
Beauty now. Are we on Breaking Beauty? Is that what you're seeing? I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So now we need to find the host email address. I'm going to share one tool that I use. I can see it's not working on this site, but that's okay. We're going to find another way we can do this. I'll share a few of my stalking tools. So we need to know the person's email to get in touch with them. I see that there is a contact us link. We will go to that in a second. The first thing that I do is I have a tool on my Chrome browser. It's called hunter.io. I'll repeat that one more time. It's hunter.io. This is a free Google Chrome extension. So you just add it onto your browser. And what it does is anytime you land on a website, it crawls that URL to see if there are associated email addresses with it. So it's really, really helpful. So if you look here at my address bar, over to the right, you'll see a few of my extensions, including this gray fox. This is the hunter.io tool. Now, if this website had an email address that it could find associated with it, it would have actually turned orange. All I would need to do is click on that fox and it would open up the email addresses for me. However, because it's gray, it's showing me it doesn't have email addresses associated with the site, or they're really well hidden. Apparently my site has it hidden, didn't know that. So, okay, hunter.io didn't work. What's option number 2? Let's look at the contact us page. Maybe there's an email address there or there's a form. I don't love the forms, but this can obviously work. Another trick I'm going to share with you. Okay, this one doesn't work here, but I'm going to share this with you. So I'm not going to be able to do this on a share screen, but what I would do, and I'm going to turn off the share screen for this moment so I'm not distracted as I'm talking through it. Okay. What I would actually do is I would look up the hosts. So we saw the names Jill Dunn and Carleen Higgins. I'd hop on Instagram. Cute little picture of a cat this time. I would hop on Instagram and I would look up Jill Dunn or Carleen Higgins, because on Instagram, a lot of the time when you land on someone's bio, and this only works on your phone, it doesn't work on your computer. It'll say, there's a link to follow, to message. Beside it, there's often one that says email. And all you need to do is tap on that and it'll open up in your email, whoever you use, Gmail or whatever, and it'll show what the email address is.
Really? Wait,
Yep.
On Instagram, you follow them on Instagram?
So not everybody has it set up this way. So I don't have mine set up this way. You may not as well. But when you open up somebody's profile sometimes, I don't know why I'm doing this as if you can see it right now. But when you open up somebody's profile, it will say, so I'm just opening mine right now.
Okay.
So it's a little different because it's my own profile, but there are these white buttons for following them or messaging them. Oh. And sometimes there is one that says email.
Oh, okay. Good.
And when you click on email, I'm just like, okay, my wedding planner, she came up first. Hey, Mallory. So on Mallory's profile, see there what it says email?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
If they just tap on that, it's going to open up my browser and their email address is going to be visible to me. So those are 3 different ways you can creep for somebody's email address, even if they try to hide it from you. And I got plenty more, but for time's sake, I'll just stick it to those 3 today.
So if you go to the podcast page on their website, do some of them sometimes have a like, hey, if you want to be on our podcast, this is where you go?
Yeah. So I would say more often than not, they don't have that page, but in the instances that they do, guys, pay attention, follow the directions. If it says, leave us a comment on this form, don't send them an email. They told you what they want you to do. It's kind of like, when you'd apply for a job. Well, I haven't applied for a job in years, but I remember they would tell you exactly how to apply. And if you didn't follow that told them off the jump that you can't follow instructions.
Yeah.
So if they say, please don't email us, just use this form, guess what? Do it.
Use the form. Yeah, got it. All right. So let's go to the pitch now. What is it that we need to include in the pitch to really stand out and have that be accepted onto the podcast?
Yeah, the most important thing to do in a pitch is to provide value. More times than not, I'll see people write a pitch and write an email pitching themselves as a guest. And, doing it the best of their ability. They don't know that they're doing this, but I find too many pitches that are like, hi, my name's Simone Richards and I'm a publicist and I have a course and I have a workshop coming up and I would love to come on your show and talk about what I do. Would you like to have me on? Guess what? Nobody wants to give you a free 30-minute commercial. So think about on that show, what is the pain point of the audience and how can you bring value in solving that pain point? That is when somebody will invite you to be on their show. So now you're giving value to the audience, you're getting exposure to new people. And at the end of an episode, they will say to you, Lisa, how can our listeners find you? And that's when you have an opportunity to share more about yourself. So when you're writing an email asking for the opportunity to be featured, a really simple trick that I can share with everybody is once you've written that email and you're like, hey, this is who I am and what I do. I know that these are the type of people who listen to your show and they're struggling with XYZ. I'm actually an expert in this and I would love to share with them how to ABC to solve that problem. Would that be of value? Boom. Look at that. Rewatch that video. That's kind of like a rundown of your paragraphs. But when you're looking at that email, once you've drafted it, skim the left margin. How many paragraphs begin with I, me, or my? And if they're all starting with I, me, or my, you got to change it up. With change a lot of
you or your,
all about you, but you can say the exact same thing and just make it about the audience and then how you're going to solve the problem. But if it's all me, 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 nobody cares, because one thing I learned in PR school that was like the really harsh thing to hear in like week number 2, but it has served me so well in my business. They said, nobody cares about your brand or business as much as you do. And that line has stuck with me. So if you come from the angle of, hey, this is me and this is so interesting in my stuff and what I do in my book, like no one cares. Nobody cares. Everybody's interested in what's in it for them. So show up with value and then people will care about you.
Yep. I very consciously do that in pretty much all my marketing, even emails that I write. I go back and I look how many me's and I's do I have and really focus on making sure, especially in the first few sentences, that it's all about you and your. Makes a huge difference.
Best things to learn ever. Like your about page bio, it's barely about you at all. It's all about them with a little bit of you in there.
Yes, exactly. Wow. Well, this was so great, Lisa. I love it. Like, what are we at? 24 minutes now?
And we went overtime.
That's all right. They got so much value. I see some comments on here. Catherine McConnell, Savita, thanks so much for watching. You shared some really great tools with us, some awesome tips for stalking a podcast host, how to get on it, and what to write in the pitch. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank
You're
you
super
to our
welcome, Megan.
viewers. Have an awesome rest of your day.